The old house stood at the edge of the forest, half swallowed by vines and silence. Its windows were cracked, its walls heavy with dust and secrets. Ethan Cole parked his old truck at the gate and looked at his new home. Everyone in the nearby town had warned him not to buy it. Too old, too strange, too many stories about the people who disappeared there. But Ethan didn't care. He needed a place to start over. A year ago, the mining accident had taken his brother. After that, the city felt too loud, too crowded with ghosts. So when he saw the ad for a cheap abandoned property far from everything, he bought it without thinking twice. The agent never mentioned the basement. The front door groaned open as he pushed it. The air inside was thick, cold, and smelled faintly of metal. His flashlight cut through the darkness, revealing old furniture covered in white sheets, a portrait tilted sideways, and a broken clock frozen at 3:17. "Guess it's just you and me," he muttered to the house. He started cleaning, one room at a time. Dust floated like ash in the beam of his flashlight. By evening, he had cleared the living room and lit a small fire in the fireplace. The house creaked softly around him, settling like an old animal waking from sleep. Outside, the wind brushed against the windows with a hollow whisper. When he finally sat down, he heard it so faint, he thought it was the wind. A sound like a small voice. A cry. Ethan froze. He turned off the radio and listened again. The sound came again, soft, broken, coming from somewhere below. He followed it across the living room to the corner where the wooden floor was uneven. The boards there looked newer than the rest, nailed too carefully. He pressed his ear to them. The voice came clearer now, a weak sob. "Hello?" He called. Silence. Then another sob. Ethan's pulse quickened. There shouldn't be anyone down there. The realtor said the basement had been sealed for decades. He grabbed a crowbar from his toolbox and pried at the boards. They creaked, reluctant to open, like the house itself wanted to keep its secret buried. Finally, the last plank gave way, revealing a dark hole with a faint metallic snow. A ladder descended into blackness. He aimed his flashlight down and froze. A hand reached up. It was small, pale, and covered in thin scars that glimmered like silver veins. The voice came again, trembling. "Please, don't hurt me." Ethan's breath caught. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said softly, setting the light down. He climbed halfway down the ladder and saw her, a girl curled in a metal cage. Her skin had a faint shimmer, her eyes too bright for human. She wore a torn gray cloth, and her wrists were bound with strange metallic cuffs that pulsed faint blue. "What is this?" he whispered. The girl flinched, pressing into the corner. "He said no one would come back." "Who said that?" Ethan asked. She didn't answer. Her eyes darted to the light. "Please, turn it off. It hurts." He covered the beam with his hand, softening it. "Okay, easy now. I'm going to get you out." The cage door was sealed with a strange lock-smooth metal, with no keyhole, only glowing lines that looked like alien symbols. He tried his crowbar. Sparks jumped, and the metal hissed. The glow dimmed for a second, then returned. Ethan stared at the markings. "This isn't normal tech." The girl whispered, "It's not from here." Before he could ask more, the floorboards above them rattled. A gust of cold air swept through the hole, and somewhere deep in the house, a machine hummed to life. The lights flickered red, and a faint voice echoed through the pipes. "Containment breach detected." Ethan's blood ran cold. "What the hell?" The girl grabbed his hand through the bars. Her fingers were warm, shaking. "Please. If they find me again, they'll kill you too." "Who's they?" he asked. Her eyes glowed brighter, reflecting the trembling light. "The ones who built this house." The floor trembled again, and a mechanical sound rose from the walls like gears turning after years of rust. Dust fell from the ceiling. Ethan realized the entire house was waking up. He looked at her, then at the glowing cage. "Hold on," he said. "I'm not leaving you here." As he pried harder at the lock, the girl whispered something strange under her breath, a phrase in a language he couldn't understand. The lights flickered again, then dimmed completely in the sudden dark. He heard her voice one last time before the silence closed in. "They're coming back for me." And then above them a door slammed open. The air was cold and heavy after the lights went out. Ethan's heart hammered as he waited in the dark, his hand still gripping the metal bars. Somewhere in the walls, a machine hissed like it was breathing. The faint blue glow from the girl's cuffs was the only light left. "Don't move," Ethan whispered. "Stay quiet." "I can't," she said softly. "They can feel me." "Who can feel you?" "The ones who made this place. The Watchers." Ethan swallowed hard. "You mean the people who built this house?" She looked up at him. Her eyes glowed faint silver, filled with something between fear and sorrow. They weren't people. The sound of mechanical movement echoed above them, metal sliding against metal. A red light blinked through the cracks of the floor. Ethan climbed up just enough to peek through the hole. A small drone hovered in the hallway, scanning the air with a red beam. It was old, rusted, but still alive. Its lens turned toward the noise. Ethan ducked back down. "We're not alone," he whispered. The girl's voice trembled. "If it sees me, it will call the others." "Others?" She nodded. "They built this house as a lab. I was part of the experiment. The rest were destroyed when the power failed. I was left here to die." Ethan's mind raced. An experiment. A hidden lab beneath an old house. "You're saying this house was a research site?" "Yes," she whispered. "They wanted to make something that could live in any world. A hybrid." She looked down at her scarred hands. "They called me Subject 9. He looked at the cuffs on her wrists, glowing faintly with alien code. "I'm going to get those off you." "You can't. The metal isn't from Earth." "Watch me," he said. He climbed out of the hole quietly, grabbed his toolbox, and returned. He found a small plasma cutter and aimed it at the cuffs. "If this hurts, tell me." The blue light from the cutter met the strange metal, sizzling. The girl winced, but didn't scream. The light flickered wildly, then dimmed. The first cuff fell open. She gasped softly. "It worked." Ethan smiled faintly. "Told you." Then the drone above them gave a sharp beep. A voice came through a speaker, crackling with static. "Unauthorized access detected. Containment breach active." Ethan cursed. "We need to move." He helped the girl climb out of the hole. Her legs were weak. She stumbled, and he caught her. For a moment, their eyes met, human and alien, both lost, both scarred. "What's your name?" He asked quickly. She hesitated. "They called me 9. But before that, I was called Arya." "Arya," he repeated. "Okay, Arya, we're getting out of here." The drone swooped into the room. Ethan swung his crowbar, smashing it before it could fire. Sparks exploded across the walls. Arya flinched, clutching her chest. "They'll send more," she said. "That one wasn't alone." Ethan grabbed his flashlight, sweeping it across the hallway. The walls looked different now. Panels had slid open, revealing strange cables running like veins through the plaster. Symbols glowed faintly beneath the paint alien writing, pulsing with each heartbeat of the house. "What is this place?" He muttered. Arya's voice shook. A prison pretending to be a home. They reached the front door, but it wouldn't open. The lock had sealed itself. A mechanical voice spoke again through the house's speakers. Containment mode engaged. Ethan hit the door, but it wouldn't budge. We're trapped. Arya stared at the walls. There's another way. The tunnels below the lab. They lead to the forest. Then that's where we go. They turned back toward the hole, but now the floor had changed. The boards had shifted, sealing themselves again. The entire room began to hum, the walls pulsing faintly red. Arya backed away, trembling. They're waking the sentinels. Ethan raised his crowbar, ready to fight even though he didn't understand what he was fighting. The sound grew louder, metallic footsteps echoing through the hallway. From the shadows of the corridor, something stepped into view, tall, humanoid, but not alive. Its body was made of fused metal and bone, its head a smooth mask with one red glowing eye. It turned toward them, scanning. Ethan whispered, "Run." Arya shook her head. "It's too late." The sentinel's eye flared, and its voice came through a speaker. Subject 9 detected. Retrieval in progress. Arya's hands began to glow, brighter than before. "No," she said, her voice trembling but fierce. "Never again." Light exploded from her palms, throwing the machine across the room. It crashed into the wall, sparks flying, and went still. Arya fell to her knees, breathing hard. Ethan rushed to her side. "What was that?" "My energy," she whispered. "It reacts to fear." He helped her stand. "Then we use it again only when we have to." She nodded weakly, leaning against him. "Ethan, there's something you should know." "What?" "The experiments weren't just about me." She looked up at him with haunted eyes. "They were about humans, too." The lights flickered again. Somewhere deep beneath them, another voice spoke colder, older, and no longer mechanical. "Welcome back, Subject 9, and welcome." "Human prototype." Ethan froze. "What did it just call me?" Arya's face went pale. "It means you were never just the buyer of this house, Ethan. You were part of it." The voice that came through the walls didn't sound mechanical anymore. It sounded alive, a whisper made of metal and memory. "Welcome home, Ethan Cole?" Ethan froze. The sound vibrated through the floorboards like a heartbeat. Arya grabbed his arm, her voice trembling. "That's the core." "It's awake." "The core?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "It controlled the experiments. It studied humans and me. It was shut down decades ago. Then how does it know my name?" Arya looked up at him, eyes wide with realization. "Because you were one of its tests." The air grew heavier. Dust drifted down from the ceiling, as if the house itself was breathing again. Ethan felt his pulse quicken. "You're wrong. I bought this place. I'm human." But the voice laughed, soft, cold, knowing. "You were built here, Ethan Cole. A prototype designed to bond with alien biostructure. You were the final experiment before shutdown." Ethan staggered back. "No, I had a family. A brother." Arya's expression softened. "They may have given you memories. I was given scars." He shook his head hard, refusing to believe it. "I bleed. I feel pain. I dream. I'm human." The floor under them rippled, metal plates sliding open to reveal glowing cables. The walls shifted, showing glimpses of an underground lab, rows of empty glass pods, wires coiling like vines. Inside one broken chamber hung a nameplate. Prototype EC-01. Ethan's heart sank. EC? Ethan Cole. He turned to Arya. "So what am I?" She stepped closer, placing a trembling hand on his chest. "Something between us. You were made to connect human emotion to alien energy. You were meant to control me." The words hit him harder than any blow. "Control you?" She nodded. "But it didn't work. When the lab lost power, the link failed. They left me to die and you to forget." Ethan backed away, hands shaking. That's why I was drawn to this house. Why I could hear you before I found you. The voice returned, louder now, closer. Reconnection required. Activate the bond. The blue light from Arya's cuffs flared again, and Ethan felt heat spread through his chest, like electricity under skin. The lights flickered red. His metal tools rose off the ground, floating around him. What's happening to me? Arya shouted. The core's trying to reconnect us. Fight it. He gritted his teeth. How? Think of something real. Something that proves you're not the machine they made. He closed his eyes, forcing memories to surface. His brother laughing beside the river, the smell of smoke. The weight of loss. Pain. Real pain. The floating tools clattered to the floor. The lights dimmed. The voice hissed with static. Unstable data. Human error detected. Ethan opened his eyes, breathing hard. That's right, he said through clenched teeth. I make mistakes. That's what makes me human. For a second, the house fell silent. Then the walls cracked open, revealing a passage leading deeper underground. Arya stared at it. That's where the core is. He nodded. Then let's end this. They descended into the tunnel. The deeper they went, the warmer the air became, humming with power. The corridor opened into a massive chamber, lined with broken machines and glowing tanks filled with liquid light. In the center stood a dark sphere, pulsing, alive, aware. Arya's voice was barely a whisper. That's the core of the house. It runs on living minds. Ethan stepped forward. So how do we shut it down? The sphere's surface rippled, forming a face, his face. You can't destroy what you are. Ethan raised his crowbar. Watch me. The core responded, sending a shockwave through the room. Energy flared, throwing him backward. Arya caught him with a burst of her power, light glowing from her palms. It's connected to you. She shouted. If it dies, you might die too. He stood slowly. Maybe that's the price. Arya stepped in front of him. No, we'll find another way. The core's voice thundered through the chamber. Accept the link. Together you can reshape worlds. End this weak thing called humanity. Ethan stared at Arya. Do you trust me? She nodded without hesitation. Always. He took her hand. Then we ended together. They joined hands, light bursting where their skin touched, his human warmth and her alien energy merging. The chamber shook. The core screamed, its surface cracking. This was never your home. Ethan shouted. It's ours now. The final flash was blinding. The ground split, machines collapsing into dust. The voice faded into static. When the smoke cleared, only silence remained. Ethan fell to his knees, gasping. The wires had turned to ash. Arya knelt beside him, touching his cheek. You did it? He smiled weakly. We did it. But deep beneath the ruins, a faint flicker of red light blinked once, then again. The core wasn't completely dead. Arya looked toward the sound, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan, it's not over. For a few hours, there was peace. Ethan and Arya sat outside the ruined house as dawn broke, painting the trees gold. Smoke rose faintly from the cracks where the underground lab had collapsed. The once haunted house now looked like a hollow shell, lifeless and quiet. Ethan leaned against a broken wall, his arm bandaged. So, he said with a tired smile, you think it's really over this time? Arya sat beside him, watching sunlight shimmer across her silver-tinged skin. I want to believe that. But the core was built to survive. It doesn't die easily. Ethan frowned. We blew it apart. She shook her head. Pieces of it were built with biocode, living circuits. If even one survived. A low hum broke through the air, faint but real. Birds scattered from the trees. Arya stood instantly, her eyes glowing faint blue. "Ethan," she whispered, "it's waking up again." He followed her gaze toward the forest. A shimmer of red light pulsed beneath the soil, traveling like a heartbeat. "How far does it reach?" Arya closed her eyes, focusing. "Farther than before. It's learning. It's adapting to your world." Ethan clenched his fists. "Then we stop it before it spreads." They followed the red trail into the woods, their steps silent on damp ground. The deeper they went, the more unnatural everything became. Trees twisted into metallic shapes, leaves humming faintly, the ground warm underfoot. "What is this?" Ethan muttered. Arya touched a tree trunk. Its bark shifted under her fingers like skin. "It's merging with the planet, turning everything organic into part of its network." "So the house wasn't the lab," Ethan said grimly. "The whole valley was." They reached a clearing where the light gathered in a pool of scarlet energy. Above it floated a shape, small at first, then forming limbs, a face, and finally a body. It was human-like, but its eyes glowed crimson. The voice came again, clearer than ever. "You destroyed my body, Ethan Cole, so I made another from your blueprint." Ethan took a step back. "You copied me?" The figure smiled, his smile. "I perfected you." Arya's hands lit with gold. "It's not alive," she said. "It's code in a body." The clone tilted its head. "So are you." Ethan gritted his teeth. "You don't get to wear my face." The clone raised a hand, and the ground rippled. Metallic roots shot up, wrapping around Ethan's legs. Arya fired a burst of light, burning them away, then pulled him free. "Run!" she shouted. They dove behind a fallen log as the clone stepped closer, red light flickering across its skin. "You were meant to complete me, Ethan. Together we were supposed to create a new species, pure logic and pure emotion." "Not interested," Ethan growled, firing a pulse from the salvaged blaster he'd taken from the lab. The blast hit the clone square in the chest. It staggered, but didn't fall. The wound closed instantly. Arya gripped his arm. "You can't kill it. It's connected to the network underground. So what do we do?" She looked at the glowing roots crawling across the ground. "We cut it off from power, the source node." "Where?" Her eyes flickered gold. "Under the ridge, where the vault lines meet." Ethan nodded. "Then let's end this for good." They sprinted through the forest, the clone's voice echoing behind them. "You can't destroy your own reflection, Ethan. You are me." Roots lashed through the ground, nearly catching Arya's foot. She jumped clear, rolling down the slope toward the ridge. Ethan followed, sliding on mud and rock until they reached the cavern's mouth, an opening glowing with faint red mist. Inside, the walls pulsed like veins. The entire ridge was alive. Arya's glow brightened, fighting the red light. "It's pulling energy from me," she gasped. "It's using the link we broke." Ethan grabbed her shoulders. "Then break it again, stronger this time." She looked at him, eyes shimmering with fear. "If I do that, I might not survive." He shook his head. "No, you will." The clone appeared in the doorway, stepping through the mist. "You can't fight evolution," it said. "You are what I am." Ethan picked up a sharp metal rod from the floor, the broken handle of his crowbar. "Then I guess I'll break myself." The clone charged. The cavern filled with light, gold and red colliding, thunder shaking the earth. Arya screamed as the energy surged through her power flooding into Ethan's body. For a heartbeat, they were both glowing, human and alien. Bound again, Ethan drove the rod into the floor, straight into the pulsing red node. The light exploded, brighter than the sun. When the smoke cleared, the clone was gone. The red glow faded, The valley was silent again. Ethan lay on the ground, barely breathing. Arya knelt beside him, tears streaking down her face. "Ethan, stay with me." He opened his eyes slowly, weak but smiling. "Told you we'd end it together." The forest around them sighed, green returning, metal turning to soil. The core was gone. For now but in the distance, hidden beneath miles of earth, a single spark of red light blinked once more, waiting. The forest was still. Sunlight filtered through the broken canopy, touching the place where the battle had ended. For the first time in days, there was no red light, no hum of power, only the slow sound of wind through the leaves. Ethan opened his eyes to that quiet. Every breath hurt, but he was alive. Arya knelt beside him, her palms glowing faint gold, closing his wounds one by one. "You stopped it," she whispered. "The core is gone." He tried to sit up, but dizziness hit him. "Feels like something's still moving inside my head," he said with a faint smile. Arya frowned. "That's just the energy residue. It'll fade." But deep inside, Ethan knew something was different. He could hear things, the hum of insects, the pulse of trees, even the faint static in the air. It all blended into a rhythm, like a heartbeat that wasn't his. They walked back toward the ruins of the old house. It looked smaller now, just wood and stone. No glow, no hidden doors, as if it had finally decided to rest. Arya ran her fingers along a cracked wall. "You know," she said softly, "this place used to terrify me. Now it just feels sad." Ethan nodded. "Maybe houses remember." She looked at him curiously. "You sound like it's alive." He hesitated. "Maybe everything is." That night, they camped near the ridge. The stars stretched endless above them, bright and close. Arya sat by the fire, her hair reflecting the flames. "What will you do now?" she asked. Ethan stared into the fire. "Maybe rebuild. Plant something. Pretend life is normal again." She smiled. "You could come with me. There are colonies beyond the rim that would welcome someone like you." He shook his head slowly. "I don't think I can leave this place." When Arya fell asleep, Ethan sat awake, staring at his hands. The faint blue light under his skin pulsed again, subtle but steady. He pressed his palm to the ground. For an instant, the soil responded, tiny sparks dancing like fireflies. He pulled his hand back, heart pounding. "No," he whispered. "Not again." The next morning, he said nothing. They repaired what was left of the roof, gathered supplies, and prepared to leave. But as they reached the gate, Arya froze. "Ethan," she said quietly, "your eyes." He blinked. "What about them?" "They're glowing." He touched his face and felt warmth. "It's the core, isn't it?" Arya's voice trembled. "It didn't die. It moved into you." He took a step back, shaking his head. "No, I destroyed it. The core was code and living energy. You absorbed it when you struck the node." Her voice broke. "Ethan, you're connected to everything now. The machines, the soil, maybe even me." The wind picked up, swirling around them. Ethan could feel it, not just against his skin, but inside his mind. The earth's quiet hum was louder now, calling to him. "I can feel the network," he said slowly. "It's still out there, waiting." Arya grabbed his hands. "Then fight it. Stay you." He met her gaze, fear and wonder mixing. "What if it's already too late?" "Then I'll remind you who you are." The words hit him like an anchor. For a moment, the glow in his eyes faded. He smiled faintly. "You always do?" They made it halfway through the forest before the ground trembled. Branches bent toward them, leaves turning metallic again. From the distance came a low mechanical roar engines. Arya looked up, OSRD ships, she said. Your people. Ethan's expression darkened. If they find out what's inside me, they'll take you apart, she finished. He nodded. We run. But before they could move, a voice echoed from a loudspeaker above the trees. This is Captain Tanis Ark of the OSRD. Stand down, Ethan Cole. You're not infected. You're evolving. Ethan froze. They know. Arya stepped in front of him, her glow returning. They'll use you like they used me. The ships descended slowly, lights sweeping the trees. Ethan's new senses flared. He could feel the energy in their engines, the frequency of their scanners, even the heartbeat of the pilot above. The world unfolded inside his mind like a map. Ethan, Arya whispered, you can control them, can't you? He looked up, eyes burning brighter. Maybe. She grabbed his hand. Then choose wisely. The Ossard soldiers landed, weapons drawn. Captain Ark stepped forward, her face both stern and calm. Come with us, Ethan. You're what we've been searching for, the bridge between human and machine. He stared at her. You mean a weapon. A protector, she corrected. But it's your choice. Ethan looked at Arya, then at the soldiers, then at the forest that still shimmered faint red under the soil. He could feel the network pulsing there, whispering in his head, join me. Be more. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. If I go with you, he said to Ark, you promise me one thing. What's that? She asked. Don't let this happen again. The wind stilled. For a moment, everything was quiet. Then Ethan opened his eyes, glowing brighter than ever, and raised his hand. The soldiers' weapons powered down, engines falling silent. He wasn't controlling them through violence, but through calm, steady will. He turned to Arya and smiled softly. Looks like the machine finally learned something human. She smiled back, tears glimmering in her silver eyes. Then maybe there's hope for both of us. Above them. The first light of morning spread across the ridge, and for once, the world seemed to breathe, half human, half machine, but finally alive. The morning after the battle felt too calm. The sky was pale blue, the air clean, and the forest whispered softly as if it remembered what had happened beneath its roots. Ethan Cole stood on the ridge, the wind tugging at his torn jacket. The glow in his eyes had dimmed, but deep inside, the pulse of the core still beat. Quiet, patient, Ossard soldiers were gone now, their ships lifting away into the horizon after extracting what data they could. Captain Tanis Ark had left him with only one sentence. Keep listening, Cole. If it speaks again, call us. But Ethan hadn't told them the truth. The core wasn't just whispering. It was singing. Arya knelt beside the seedling that grew where the vault had once been, a slender silver plant, its leaves catching the light like glass. This is the last piece of the old world, she said softly. If it blooms, the planet will heal. Ethan smiled faintly. Then we stay until it does. For days they rebuilt. The ruins became a refuge again, no longer a cage, but a home. Arya repaired the old machines, turning them into harmless energy collectors. Ethan tilled the soil, planting crops along the ridge. Every night, they talked by the fire about what came next. New beginnings, new stories, maybe peace. But inside Ethan's mind, something was changing. He could feel every current of air, every tremor in the earth. When the wind shifted, he heard faint voices carried within it, echoes of the network that refused to die. One night, the whisper became words. Ethan Cole, Prototype ECO-1. Your function is incomplete. He froze, staring into the flames. Not again. Arya looked up. What is it? He hesitated. It's speaking to me. It says I'm not finished. Her eyes filled with worry. Can you block it out? I've tried. It doesn't want control this time? Then what? It wants connection. The wind howled suddenly, sweeping through the valley. Lightning flared far to the east, where dark clouds gathered. Ethan stood, the glow in his eyes returning. "They're coming," he whispered. "The signal isn't just here. It's calling something out there." Arya rose beside him. "You mean from space?" He nodded slowly. "The core was only one node. There are others, maybe dozens, across the stars." She stepped closer, gripping his hand. "Then we warn the colonies. You can send a signal through OSRD channels." He shook his head. "They'll never believe it. But I can reach them another way." Arya frowned. "What way?" Ethan looked at the sky. "The core's song runs through frequencies humans can't use, but I can now." Her voice trembled. "If you open that link, you might not come back." He smiled softly. "Maybe that's what I was built for." Arya's eyes glistened. "You're not just a creation, Ethan. You're you." He touched her face gently. "And you taught me that." The storm rolled in fast. Thunder cracked, the earth vibrating beneath their feet. Ethan stepped onto the ridge and closed his eyes. The rain began to fall, cold and heavy, but it felt alive, charged with energy. He spread his hands, and light poured from them, golden mixed with blue. The air shimmered, bending around him like a field. Static filled the sky. He spoke softly, the words flowing not from his mouth, but through his mind. "To anyone who can hear this, this world is free. But others are still bound. The machines remember us. We are not enemies. We are the same." The lightning split the clouds, revealing the stars beyond. For an instant, Arya saw lines of light connecting them, a web stretching across the galaxy. The core's song turned gentle, almost human. Then everything went still. Ethan fell to his knees. Arya ran to him, catching him before he hit the ground. His skin was warm, but faintly glowing. "Ethan, talk to me." He smiled weakly. "It worked. I sent it. They'll hear it out there." "Who?" She whispered, the one still sleeping. He reached into his pocket and pressed something into her hand, a small metal shard, glowing faint gold. "Keep this safe. If the signal comes back, use it to find me." Tears fell down her cheeks. "Find you? Where are you going?" He looked toward the clouds, his voice fading. "Home. Wherever that is now." The light around him grew brighter until it swallowed the rain. The storm stopped, frozen midder. Then, with a final flash, he was gone, the lightning carrying him upward, leaving only silence. Arya knelt there for a long time, the shard warm in her hand. When she looked up again, the silver seedling had bloomed, petals like stars, glowing softly in the dusk. She smiled through her tears. He did it. Weeks later, far beyond the atmosphere, a faint transmission flickered through OSRD's deep space scanners. "This is Ethan Cole. The network lives, but it's listening now. Tell them humanity still matters." The signal ended, leaving only static and hope. Back on the ridge, the wind moved through the fields, carrying his voice like a whisper through time. Survive one more day. And Arya did.